Wow. Good morning. Hey, I'm Conservative Cat. Thank you for starting your weekday mornings with me. And this is a brand new show. It's fiery, it's passionate, it's unapologetically conservative and Christian above all else. And I'm going to be talking a lot about what's happening with your tax dollars in Illinois. It's a brand new show. We're going to be broadcasting live on social media, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. And it's going to be available wherever you get your podcasts. So that's Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them, Spotify. And the show's going to start at 6 a.m., around 6:06 a.m. every morning. And this is the show that's going to cut through the noise. It's going to have sharp commentary. It's going to be investigative. And there's going to be a little bit of satire, a sprinkle of satire in there, aimed at exposing the absurdities of the other side of the aisle, which is the left. So we've got a lot to get to today. So I'm going to jump right in, if that's okay with you. Illinois is advancing their high-speed rail study, and they're launching this high-speed rail study, and they're continuing to do this despite federal officials citing California's failures when it comes to high-speed rail. So we're going to get to that story. Plus, Illinois Democrats just passed this reckless budget, totally reckless, and it's going to cost you a ton of money. And Illinois doesn't have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. And I'm going to break it all down for you right here on Conservative Cat, brought to you by Patriot Pump Media, Patriot Pump Energy. Grab yours today. It's patriotpumpenergy.com. You just go, and you can use whatever promo code. If you're watching on Facebook, use FB Pump for your promo code. And that's the sponsor of today's show. So go to patriotpumpenergy.com and buy your bottle today. It's a pre-workout. I drink it all of the time instead of coffee. I have a cup of coffee, and then I have a little bit of my pre-workout. Patriot Pump Energy has a little bit of black pepper extract in it, so it keeps you super focused. And I'm going to need it today because I'm also going to be talking about Michelle Obama saying that producing life is the least important thing a woman could do. Yeah, she's a he, so Michelle Obama. Let's get into it. Whether you're fed up with government waste, hungry for a local voice right here in Illinois politics, or seeking bold truth grounded in faith, this show is going to deliver it all this morning. You can check out theconservativecat.com. The shows will be posted there. Eventually, we're going to get a blog, and you'll be able to see exclusive Illinois stories. So let's get into it. The boondoggle, the big government boondoggle and wasteful spending, one taxpayer-funded mess at a time. I'm sinking my claws into these taxpayer-funded messes. So Illinois, this is going to make your skin crawl. High-speed rail. Yes, we're jumping on the high-speed rail bandwagon, and we have been on this bandwagon for over 15 years. They're studying a multi-billion-dollar project to try to connect these cities like Chicago and St. Louis. They want to make this huge stretch of high-speed rail. Now, on the surface, that might sound exciting. Like, oh, a high-speed rail. Ooh, trains zipping by cornfields, through cornfields, 220 miles per hour is the speed that they want to get up to. They're never going to get up to that, and they've had 15 years to do that. It sounds sleek. It sounds modern. It sounds hip. But let's dig a little deeper. Let's really sink our claws into this. So the state is now working on this high-speed rail feasibility study. How feasible is this? The McLean County Regional Planning Commission and the Illinois Department of Transportation, they're the ones working on this study right now. And this is no small endeavor. Okay, this is 15 years in the making, 2.9 at least billion dollars. That's 2.9 billion with a B. And we haven't even hit 220 miles per hour yet. So let me get this into perspective for you. While Illinois is just dipping its toes in, California's already gone and done this, and they've gone off the deep end. They spent $16 billion. And guess how many tracks that they've laid? High-speed rail tracks. Guess how many tracks they've laid? I'll give you a second. That's right. 0. Not 1 mile of track has been laid down. Now, the U.S. Transportation Secretary, love this guy. I think he's got like 9 kids or something, and he's got a couple of chickens, which is great. He's all about faith, all about family, family, and he called out this train wreck of a project. Yes, train wreck of a project, excuse me. And he asked all the right questions. Where's the money going? Who's getting rich? And he's not wrong to wonder. Take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
But when the project was supposed to be $33 billion and $16 billion has been spent, $16 billion was spent on high-speed rail in California. And there's not one high-speed track that's been laid. Not one. And $16 billion was spent. It does beg the question, where did you spend the money? Did someone get rich? Did someone make a lot of money off taxpayer cash on the idea of a high-speed rail? When you haven't built one track, that is a ton of money. And the time frame has been extensive. And so now the estimates are that this is going to cost upwards of $130 billion. California doesn't have the money. I can't imagine the DOT is going to send them additional cash. They don't even have a time frame in when this could be completed. And it goes back to this point. I think high-speed rail is great. I wish we had more high-speed rail. But if you're going to have a project where you want to have, this is a model you could use in the rest of the country. LA to San Francisco, high-speed rail. You want to do it efficiently with the tax dollar, and you want to have the build out be timely. They've done the exact opposite. They've wasted billions of dollars. The time frame is well overdue, and so you get people that say, I don't want to invest in high-speed rail because look what happened in California. It's a waste of money. I want to invest in good projects. And so the liberal mindset who wants high-speed rail, you would think they would want to do it really, really well. And they do it like shit. And the question is, why? I don't know. You should try to sell people on your ideas, not make them go, these are black holes where people get rich and projects don't get built.
I couldn't have said it better myself. California now estimates that its rail project is going to cost $130 billion. They just did $1 billion in Illinois tax increases. We're going to get to that here in just a second. But Illinois wants to lay down these exact same tracks. And we're seriously going to throw taxpayer money at this black hole. And we're going to hope that we get this shiny new train at the end of it. Give me a break. Now, to make things worse, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he signed a law back in 2021 for this 21-member commission. And they are supposed to plan out how this whole high-speed rail network is supposed to work. And really, this is government speak. Oh, a commission. We're going to make a board. We're going to build a board, and we're going to create a law that creates a board or a commission. That's government speak for, slow meetings and big salaries. All these members on this commission are probably raking in that taxpayer dollars. So meanwhile, you've got the Illinois High-Speed Rail Commission hosting surveys, virtual events, trying to gauge the public interest. Let me save you the trouble. Governor, most Illinoisans want better roads and not this futuristic fancy train that they'll never ride because probably going to be riddled with crime because of the Safety Act, and our criminal our crime rate is going through the roof right now. And here's the kicker. The whole study is being funded by the state, not through this federal corridor ID program. So Sean Duffy actually pulled all these federal dollars from not only the California project, but also the Texas project. So the state is doing this thing on its own. They're not looking to the federal government to help chip in. So it's going to be you Illinoisan, who has to fund this whole thing. And the feds don't pick up this project. You're going to be paying for it. I'm going to be paying for it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Conservative cat, level with me here. What if it actually works someday? What if they actually lay down? Now, they've only laid down, I think it's from Dwight to Chicago. They've laid down some tracks, and they're the 110 miles per hour track or whatever. And they want to gut all that. And then they want to put in this 220 mile per hour. Look. In theory, a high-speed rail project sounds really cool, but this isn't Europe. It's the Midwest. We've got wide open spaces. We've got a car culture that we love. And the rail freight system is, it actually makes sense. And we use the rail for freighting and for getting our goods from one place to another. We don't really use it to commute. Okay. High speed rail is massive. It's expensive. It's a gamble, either way, in this state, in a state that's already bleeding, and people are fleeing the state. Businesses are fleeing the state thanks to high taxes and bloated budgets, which we're going to get to in just a second. Just look at Texas, though. They couldn't even make it work. And Texas is actually run pretty responsibly, fiscally responsive or responsible. They couldn't make this work. The feds pulled the plug on that project. That was Sean Duffy who pulled the plug. It was $63.9 million that the Federal Corridor ID program, they were going to give some money, the federal government, to this project. But at the end of the day, none of the rails are being laid down. None of the tracks are being laid down. So that project, their funding got pulled. They were under delivering. And this should tell you something. Illinois is not going to be able to do it on their own. We need to dismantle this 21 board commission. And we need to stop throwing money at these high-speed feasibility studies. Here in Illinois, our leaders are more focused on copying California's mistakes. California's already made this mistake. $130 billion is what the project is going to cost at this point. That's what they're estimating. And Sean Duffy says, no, thank you. You guys haven't laid a single track, and you've already spent $16 billion. This is a black hole, and it's all designed to get people rich. Nothing gets built. At the end of the day, Illinois residents, they're not looking for political vanity projects. They're looking for accountability, fiscal responsibility, and real infrastructure solutions, not pipe dreams backed by planners and politicians who won't be around to answer when the cost starts spiraling and nothing rolls out. There's no tracks laid down. And the costs are just piling up over decades. 15 years this has been in the making, and we've already sunk $3 billion into this thing, and no tracks have been laid. Maybe the 100-mile-per-hour tracks, but we got to get those up, and we got to pull them out, and we got to lay down the 220-mile-per-hour tracks. All right, shifting gears. Let's get into government overreach and fiscal insanity straight out of Illinois. We're diving into the litter box of tax hikes. I'm Conservative Kat. Appreciate you joining the live stream. This is a brand new show. You can get $10 off your Patriot Pump bottle today by using the promo code Conservative Cat. $10 off. And then you go to patriotpumpenergy.com, you buy that bottle, and you get $10 off that bottle at checkout if you use the promo code Conservative Cat. If you're watching on Facebook, you get a promo code FB Pump. If you're watching on Facebook, use promo code FB Pump. So let me break this down, the budget. Buckle up, friends, because this is going to be a bumpy ride, especially if you're a taxpayer here in the state. Illinois lawmakers have just passed a $55 billion state budget. Now, let me put this into perspective for you. Just a few years ago, before Governor J.B. Pritzker, is $30 or so billion. Now it's $55 billion. That's how much we're spending. That's right. The most expensive budget in state history. And if you think that's something to celebrate, you might be a Democrat lawmaker from Evanston. So State Representative Robin Gable actually had the nerve to call this budget compassionate, okay, and fiscally, socially responsible. Really? $1 billion in new taxes on hardworking businesses, families, and businesses. You're going to say that's compassionate, my guy? What planet are you governing from? Let me break this down. The budget is riddled with over $1 billion in tax increases. And here's what it looks like in the real world, okay? So there's a 45% tax hike on tobacco and vaping products, because clearly what Illinoisans need right now is more expensive, for it to be more expensive to kick back and relax during tax season. Okay. A 45% tax increase on vaping products, tobacco products, and then there's higher taxes on sports betting. So if you're trying to make ends meet, you throw a couple bucks towards the Bears. Now the state wants a bigger cut. Okay, so higher taxes on sports betting, higher taxes on tobacco and vaping products. Maybe I could look the other way, but it's just so economically destructive, and they think of all of these different ways to tax you. Higher taxes on sports betting. There's also corporate tax hikes. So corporate tax hikes, we're going to see these, and this is going to make businesses think twice before staying here, okay, or coming to Illinois. These corporate tax hikes, there's a whole series of these. So it's not just the sports, not just the tobacco products, which I could probably look the other way on. It's these corporate income taxes too, and corporate tax hikes, and it's going to make small businesses think twice about staying here or coming here to the state of Illinois. And this is economically destructive. It's bad policy. And Illinois already has some of the highest outmigration rates in this country, by the way. People are leaving in droves. Why? Taxes, crime, and bad leadership. And what does this budget do? It doubles down on all of it. There's bad tax hikes. There's high crime rates, and there's bad leadership. And let's just start at the beginning here about where all the money is going, because you're probably wondering, where's this $1 billion in tax increases going? Well, tucked away in the budget, there's $130 million going to the health benefits for immigrant seniors. So specifically non-citizens over the age of 65. That's right. If you're illegally here and you're over the age of 65, congratulations. Illinois is going to cover your health care on the taxpayer's dime. And the taxpaying citizen, you're going to struggle to pay your own insurance. Okay, you're not on Medicaid, you have some kind of insurance, you're struggling to pay the copays, the insurance. Get in line. We don't care about you. We're going to give free health care to those over ages 65 illegally. Meanwhile, they're cutting funding for, I do want to recognize this, they did cut funding, and this is only because Governor J.B. Pritzker is eyeing down the presidency. This is why he cut the funding for non-citizens between the ages of 42 and 64. So not eliminating the program, we're just kind of moving money around, and we're giving the money to the seniors. So who are illegally here, by the way, you have to pay your insurance, but they don't, because they broke federal immigration laws. We're rewarding people essentially for breaking immigration laws and punishing middle-class families who are trying to stay afloat. What exactly is compassionate about that, Representative Robin Gable, Democrat lawmaker? So not compassionate. And let's not forget the process behind all of this. Lawmakers waited until literally the last few hours before, Saturday midnight. Like, I think it was like Saturday at midnight. And they waited until the final few hours of session. This deadline. So Saturday was like the deadline. And they waited until the very end of that deadline to pass this budget. And the budget is so long. I think, like, if you wanted to go get it printed at a FedEx office, you would wind up paying $860 or something like that at 26 cents a page. So they've been in session since January, by the way. That's how session works. What are they doing during this entire time period? You have to pass the budget at the very end. It's designed that way, and they pass thick old budgets so that way you can't read through it as the taxpayer, or your representatives who give a damn, they can't read through it. So Representative, she's Republican, Amy Illick, one of the few voices of reason, she said it best: the people of Illinois deserve so much better. She's been through 5 spring sessions, and every year she walks out more worried for the people she represents, as she should be. State's Senator Chapin Rose, he did not mince words either. He hit back pretty hard on the Democrats, trying to blame the budget on, you guessed it, Donald Trump. That's what they're trying to blame this budget on, Donald Trump, the Democrat lawmakers in Springfield. Apparently, the Democrats think that the shadow of Donald Trump is going to justify their reckless spending, and is enough to justify their reckless spending. Orange man bad. He's why we have to spend all this money. So State Senator Chapin Rose, he didn't mince words. I've got to take a quick break. We're going to talk about Senator Chapin Rose. Played the clip of him on the floor, not mincing his words. He laid it out plainly. $15 billion in the budget increases over the last 6 years. So like I said, we started out at like 30 billion, and then Governor J.B. Pritzker took over and all hell broke loose. And now we're at $55 billion. And we just had a $2 billion jump from last year. And that's on them. That's on the Democrat lawmakers. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat.
Check your blind spots. Men love to call things out. Weakness, hypocrisy, failure. We're wired to spot threats and take action. But Jesus didn't say, never judge. He said, judge not, that you be not judged. Why? Because judgment without humility is a trap. It turns you into a sniper with a log jammed in your eye. Matthew 7 hits hard. Jesus calls out a man who sees a speck in his brother's eye, but ignores the plank in his own. He's not saying, don't correct. He's saying, clean your lens first. Self-examination before confrontation. It takes guts to get real with your own sin, to admit you've gone soft, to face your pride, lust, laziness, or bitterness head on. But that's what real men do. They sharpen themselves before they sharpen others. Jesus didn't just want behavior police. He wanted heart warriors. Men who get the plank out, then humbly help a brother see clearly. Men who don't just flex spiritual authority, but walk with spiritual maturity. In verse 6, it's about discernment. Don't toss holy things to pigs. Don't waste truth on ears that mock it. Know when to speak. Know when to walk away. Before you blast through your next workout, check your form. Same with life. Patriot Pump fuels clean, focused energy, but you've still got to show up. Power with purpose. Clarity with strength. That's how you train. That's how you lead.
Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, the show that cuts through the noise with claws out truth and unapologetic common sense. I'm your host, Kat. No fluff, just facts. Today, we're tackling the topic mainstream media would rather tiptoe around, and that's abortion, its history, its turning point, and what's happening now and where it's headed. Let's start with the past. In 1973, the Supreme Court handed down Roe v. Wade, and just like that, abortion became legal nationwide. It wasn't voted on. It wasn't in the Constitution. It was judicial activism, plain and simple. And over the next 49 years, over 60 million unborn lives were lost under this illusion that it was just healthcare, that this is just healthcare. Fast forward to the game changer, June 24th, 2022. Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. The court finally corrected course, overturned Roe, and returned the power back to the states. Cue the media meltdown. But guess what? That's what democracy looks like. Local, real control. Right now, it's a state-by-state battle. Red states are passing laws to protect unborn life, some with heartbeat bills, others with total bans. Blue states, on the other hand, are sprinting forward, abortion on demand, some even pushing abortion access up until birth. That's not progressive, that's extreme. And here's where it gets even messier. Abortion pills. The latest front in this fight. The FDA greenlit mail-order abortion pills with almost no oversight. Think about that. A teenager can get these powerful drugs sent to her door without even seeing a doctor. Safe? Hardly. But the Biden administration, they were all in, treating abortion like it's the crown jewel of their social agenda. What's next? The future of abortion is being written right now. The state legislatures, in the courts, and in the culture, and at the ballot box. Conservatives are stepping up, passing strong protections, supporting crisis pregnancy centers, promoting adoption reform, and standing firm with both the mother and the child. Here's the bottom line. The fight isn't over. It's just begun, and we're no longer playing defense, though. We're shaping the culture. One law, one vote, and one voice at a time. This has been Conservative Cat Clips, where the truth cuts deep and the values stand tall, and we don't apologize for standing up for life. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat. This is the show that's fiery, passionate, and unapologetically conservative and Christian, brought to you by Patriot Pump Media and Patriot Pump Energy. PatriotPumpEnergy.com. Get your bottle today. You can use promo code Conservative Cat for just $10 off. $10 off. Like, this is incredible. Promo code Conservative Cat. Be sure to go grab your bottle of pre-workout. This is a no food dyes, no red 40, nothing like that. It is an all-natural supplement that keeps me going all day long. Black pepper extract, it keeps you focused, and there's not like a ton of caffeine in there. There's like 150 milligrams. Most pre-workouts will have you bouncing off the walls, going absolutely insane, and then you have this insane crash afterwards. This one was carefully this is carefully crafted formula to ensure that you don't have this caffeine crash in the middle of the day. And I drink it right after my cup of coffee in the morning because I love the taste of coffee. But we've got fruit punch flavor at patriotpumpenergy.com today. Use your promo code Conservative Cat. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Senator Rose, Chapin Rose. He didn't mince words. He put it out very, very plainly that the $15 billion, we've seen this increase over the past 6 years. So like I said, before Governor J.B. Pritzker got into office, we were at $30 billion. They just passed recently this $55 billion budget, which included $1 billion in tax increases. Where did those tax increases come from? Well, those are going to be seen tobacco vaping products. It was a 45% increase. Then you're going to see sports betting. Those taxes are going to go up. And then, of course, corporate taxes, which are going to deter small businesses from coming here and most likely going to cause even more businesses to flee the state. Here's Senator Chapin Rose laying it out very plainly that, hey, Democrat lawmakers here in the state of Illinois, it's not Donald Trump's fault. Okay, you can blame Donald Trump all you want. That's not going to justify your reckless spending. Take a listen here to what he said on the floor. This is a video from Center Square.
Did Donald Trump make you put $270 million in Democratic pork projects in this budget? No. Did Donald Trump make you put $40 million for a single school in Speaker Welch's district in this budget? Well, I bet. I know. What's that guy? Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller must have been on the phone with Alexis at Gombe demanding that we get all the free stuff for the illegals, right? The rest of the illegal health care that's still in here. You've got the $40 million for the immigrant integration services. You've got the $40 million for the administrative expenses associated with Illinois welcoming centers. Oh, I know. He must have called up and said, sweep those funds. I bet. I know. He was demanding you sweep OSLAD and take away the parks from the suburbs. Or maybe the sinister man, Orange Man Bad, made you put the $20 million in for the South Side organizing project. Let's be clear. $15 billion over 6 years, that's on you. $2 billion increase over last year, that's on you. Billions in tax increases that are driving working families out of Illinois, that's on you.
Donald Trump didn't cause the problem that occurred before Donald Trump became president in 2017, rather. Illinois was already getting, I think, in the 20 years before I became governor, Illinois, I think, had 21 credit downgrades consistently, not a single credit upgrade. And 8 of those occurred during my predecessor's term. So, this has been a problem for many, many, many years. So I've never blamed the credit challenges that the state of Illinois has had on Donald Trump. I blame a lot of other things on Donald Trump. I mean, he has made it difficult for working families in Illinois.
Oh, boy. So that's Governor J.B. Pritzker, and he admitted on Sunday that, no, this isn't Donald Trump's fault. The $55 billion budget and the $1 billion in tax increases, right, that are decades-long fiscal mess is not Donald Trump's fault. But it is his fault. He's the governor. Okay, he couldn't resist slipping in that line. Did you see that about how Donald Trump is making things difficult for working families? No, that's you, Governor. Okay, you're making it hard for working families. The corporate income taxes, the taxes on sports betting. You guys were literally just going to pass $1.50 delivery fee. I'm going to get to that here in just a second, but you're doing tax increases. It was $30 billion, and then you increased the budget by like $15 billion over the last 6 years. It went from 30 billion to 55 billion. That was you, Governor. Your priorities. Stop shifting blame. Now, there is a sliver of good news, and I want to bring this to you today. And it was a totally absurd measure, and it didn't get passed, which was good. They wanted to add a $1.50 delivery fee to items like pizza, Amazon packages, anything that got delivered to your house. They wanted to tack on $1.50. This fee, they claimed, would prevent the so-called transit fiscal cliff that is Chicago. And earlier we talked about the high-speed rail projects. It's a total disaster. There's crazy amounts of crime on these trains. And to be honest with you, American culture and trains, it just doesn't work out. We're a wide open space state. Farmland, the whole train, public transit thing, it doesn't work out. How many people do you see on the buses? No one. You see homeless people in there because they're using the bus as a way to house themselves out of the elements, and they're probably homeless because of all of the taxation that we're seeing here in this state. And it's impossible to live because they keep stealing your money from you. So that's the only reason why the public transit system exists. It's for homeless people occasionally to get on there and to house themselves, or for criminals to go commit crimes and pick off vulnerable people. So yeah, let's be real. This was another money grab, $1 billion, plain and simple. If you live in a rural area, this was $1.50. Like, this was going to impact rural folks the most if they were to have passed this. And like I said, this is just a sliver of good news this morning that they didn't pass that. But the Illinois Retail Merchants Association in the Center Square pointed out that this is a regressive tax. So a regressive tax means it's going to hurt those who live in food, pharmacy, transportation deserts, as they call them. The left, there's no such thing as deserts. Okay, we live in a rural state where there's a lot of farmland. Okay, it doesn't mean you're in a food desert. Okay, it doesn't mean you're in a pharmacy desert. It just means you have to drive 30 minutes. So we need to make sure our roads are up to snuff, that our road infrastructure is up to snuff, and we need to make sure that Americans can put gas in their car, Illinoisans can put gas in their car and not be charged 19 cents. Well, I don't even know how much the gas tax is. You've got a lot of Republicans to thank for that. I think it was like 19 Republicans who voted, or something crazy, where they voted to increase your gas taxes and keep increasing them. So they don't even have to bring it to a vote. They just automatically increase every single year. So again, come July 1st, your gas, the price at the pump is going to be higher because that tax is going to go up because the fiscal year starts in July. So the Merchants Association, the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, they pointed out that the rural folks were going to be impacted by this delivery fee the most, obviously. And, working class people, rural people, yeah, don't expect Springfield to care about you. They crafted this measure and they almost got it through. It doesn't get more ridiculous than that. And they called this like an environmental impact fee, a fee on the privilege of doing business. This was another thing that I didn't think got through. So they floated the idea out there of an environmental impact fee. So it was a fee on the privilege of engaging in the business as an electric vehicle power provider. So if you were making electric vehicles, they were wanting to slap a fee on you. So, Rivian in Central Illinois, Bloomington, they would have had to deal with this environmental impact fee. And it's like, wait a second, are we trying to get businesses to flee the state? I'm confused. It doesn't get much more ridiculous than that. And I don't know about you. Let this sink in a second. An environmental impact fee. And really, this was a fee on the privilege of engaging in the business of. So the privilege of doing business. That's the language these tyrants used, and they're not tyrants. They're not representatives. They're tyrants. They use this language like, you're doing business here in the state of Illinois. Well, that's a privilege. So here is a fee that we're going to slap on, folks. This is what happens when you put power in the hands of people who think money grows on trees. Money doesn't grow on trees, and the taxpayer, they think that the taxpayer is an ATM for their pet projects and their stupid little nonprofit organizations, and everybody's getting rich. They're planning, spending, taxing, and growing the government at breakneck speed. And the rest of us are tightening up our belts, and we're just praying to make rent, and we're praying that we can fill our gas tanks up. And this is the truth that the media won't say. Illinois is heading toward a cliff, and this budget just stomped on the gas pedal. The media won't tell you that. This is dangerous. We need serious fiscal reform, not virtue signaling, not this monstrosity of a budget that would have costed you $860 to go print if you did it at a FedEx office. We need leaders who understand that every dollar they spend comes right out of somebody's paycheck, and somebody worked for that money. Somebody earned that money. Somebody probably needs that money more than some Springfield bureaucrat. All right. I want to shift gears. Let's get to Michelle Obama. Michael, sorry, I've got the sniffles this morning. I know you don't need any more evidence to prove that the left despises women, but here you go. Michelle Obama, according to Michelle Obama, producing life is the least important thing a woman could do. By her own admission, she has proved how much the left actually despises women. And you know you're part of the party. Tell me you hate women without telling me you hate women. Okay, tell me you're a part of the party that hates women without telling me that you're part of the party that hates women. I'll let Michelle Obama talk or tell you about this. I don't know what podcast she was on. She was, I think, on some sort of podcast. And well, here we go.
So many men have no idea about what women go through, right? We haven't been researched, we haven't been considered, and it affects the way a lot of male lawmakers, a lot of male politicians, a lot of male religious leaders think about the issue of choice as if it's just about the fetus, the baby, but women's reproductive health is about our life. It's about this whole complicated reproductive system that does the least of what it does is produce life. It's a very important thing that it does, but you only produce life if the machine that's producing it, if you want to, whittle us down to a machine, if the machine is functioning in a healthy, streamlined kind of way. Mm-hmm. But there is no discussion or apparent connection between the two.
Those nails, I just don't even understand how you go to the bathroom. Like, I don't know, like they're like 7 inches long, and I don't even know how she goes to the bathroom and wipes her butt with those things. I'm sorry. Every time I see somebody with that ridiculously long nails, like I don't mind a little bit of length, but that was just ridiculous. I mean, it's 7-inch nails, Michelle Obama. But anyway, unclear what she believes the most important thing a woman could do, but sure, go off. Michelle, I don't know if she's got children. I'm sorry. Until I see a baby bump picture, I'm not convinced that she actually had children, because women who actually have had children wouldn't say that. The left preys on women in their most vulnerable state, which is when they're pregnant. Okay, so here's why it's so demeaning when you see a trans man or trans woman, aka a man dressed up as a girl. And it's so demeaning to see that as a woman. And here's why. When you're an actual woman, you have to give that up, your girlhood, when you become a woman and when you actually have pregnancy. Okay, when you become pregnant, your body instantly changes, your mind changes. And I know women who would love nothing more than to go back to girlhood once they're pregnant like this. And this is what the left does. They prey on women who are in a vulnerable state. There's nothing more than women would love them to go back to girlhood and not have to deal with the pregnancy, because it sucks. It's brutal. There's vomiting, there's exhaustion, and this all happens when the baby is just the size of like the grain of sand, and your hormones all change. And your whole life changes. Your brain changes. There's something called pregnancy brain. Your brain actually gets smaller, so that way you can focus on physically. Like, you get dumb when you're pregnant because you can't focus on the mental part of your body. You have to focus on the physical part, and your body shuts down the mental part of your body. Like, your brain actually physically gets smaller. And this all happens. Oh yeah, but it's not. The baby's not alive. The baby's not alive. Give me a break. Women want men to do all of the sacrificing, and they prey on women because there's nothing more that they would want to go back to feeling good. Pregnancy sucks, from what I hear from women, and they prey on women and they say, it's your body. Get rid of the baby. Go back to girlhood, girl boss, and it's so terrible and it's so selfish. Women want men to do all the sacrificing. They don't want to do anything, any kind of sacrificing. Our sacrifice, women's sacrifice, is pregnancy, hormones, dealing with the imperfection of the human body, because we live in a world of sin. And men have to protect humanity, protect and serve humanity. That's men's obligation to society. They have to protect and serve, and protect women and children, and they have to serve society, come up with laws, things like that. Women, and we've done an amazing job at convincing women to get rid of their children physically, so they don't have to deal with this sacrifice that women should go through in order to benefit society. Okay. I'm not saying that all women can have children physically, but it's terrible when you have women out there convincing other women to kill their offspring off, and convincing them to kill them and not have them if they physically can. This is a duty. Men have a duty, which is to protect and serve. Women have a duty, which is to populate the damn human race. Okay. And women telling women, hey, go kill your offspring. You don't have to sacrifice at all. That is the most selfish thing I've ever heard. And it's kind of like the left telling men to prance around in a tutu and eat Twinkies in his mom's basement. No, we should be telling our men to go protect and serve and contribute to society and provide. And then also we should be telling women, hey, you have to make the sacrifice, the physical sacrifice of bearing children. And if you can't, you have an obligation, a duty to help younger women or women who can physically have children. You have a duty to help them rear up those children and raise those children. And I know people don't like to hear this, and I know it's politically incorrect or whatever, but the left is going to try to convince you to live a complete life of comfort. And God calls us to take risks and to sacrifice a little. It's kind of like Jesus Christ made the ultimate sacrifice, his life, to save us from our sins and eternal damnation, and gave us eternal life, right? It's kind of like we should be kind of like Jesus. Okay, your gay relationship, I'm sorry, it does affect me. You chopping off your healthy body parts, it does affect me, because it affects the human race. It affects humankind. It affects the entire planet. So, firstly, this is not the least important thing a woman does. It's one of the only things a woman does that is considered the important thing that a woman does. And she refers to women as machines, and she says, some machines can't get pregnant, and it doesn't make them any less important, women who can't get pregnant. Okay, but you have an obligation as one of those women to not tear other women down, crabs in a bucket, but to lift them up and say, yeah, you have an obligation. You have to sacrifice a little bit, because guess what? We have to populate this little thing called the human race. Ask anyone who's given birth, by the way. And this is why I'm skeptical. I don't even know if Michelle Obama gave birth, because until I see a baby bump, I'm sorry, a picture of her. You're the wife of a senator, like a very known Illinois senator, and she's got no pictures of her pregnant anywhere. I can't find one. So until I see that, I'm not going to be convinced. But women who give birth, they'll tell you it's one of the most incredible experiences of their life. And for someone who allegedly gave birth, you'd think she'd know that. But again, being logically, morally, or realistically correct is not something that the left prioritizes over being politically correct. You'd rather be politically correct and prey on women in their most vulnerable state, which is the state of pregnancy. Hey, I know you want nothing more than to feel like yourself again and to feel like a girl and to have your energy back, but you have to sacrifice a little in order to populate the mankind. Okay, so men have to sacrifice. They got to go provide. They got to work. They got to create things, make things, make our cars, make our airplanes, and drive our semi trucks. Right, build our roads. A lot of these industries don't have women in them, by the way. They sacrifice all the time. Women don't want to sacrifice anything. Sorry, but the debate is over. The left despises women. By the way, they uplift the patriarchy more than anyone could imagine because they're constantly destroying women's safe spaces. They're telling women that they can't go and play sports. And, they're taking these spaces that were once reserved for women and putting men in them. And they're trashing the very premise of what makes womanhood unique. That's what Michelle Obama is doing right here. She's trashing womanhood and what makes womanhood so unique and so phenomenal. You're populating the human race, ladies. And to call that misogynistic, the fact that you downplay motherhood is that's misogynistic, and that's an understatement. All right, I got to shift gears. We are going to be taking a quick break, but I want to get to Hawaii. They signed this new bill that will charge tourists for climate change. Yes. I can't believe that I'm doing this story today. Yes, there was a new bill. It was signed, and they're going to be charging tourists in Hawaii for climate change because if they just get a little bit more money, maybe finally they'll be able to control the direction of the wind or control how much rainfall there is. They're going to give up their rain dances, and they're going to implement a tax and tax tourists in order to change the direction of the wind, I suppose. Then we're going to get to Joe Biden. He made a return. Joe Biden returns. He threatened to beat up Jake Tapper. Pretty funny. But he also admitted that he's not mentally stable and that he can't walk. So, Joe Biden, this was his first debut after his cancer diagnosis. And I'm not laughing at Joe Biden having cancer. I'm laughing really at the fact that the media, legacy media, traditional media, and three-letter media, they have lied to you so badly. There's no way Joe Biden got this bad in overnight since he lost the election in November. Okay, there's no way he got this bad. The people who were controlling Kamala Harris and Joe Biden aren't the same people, but there's no way he got this bad in this short amount of time. And the media did not cover it. So that's what I'm really laughing about. And Jake Tapper, he wrote this book and he says, Joe Biden, he was experiencing mental decline and they covered it all up. Yeah, you covered it up, Jake. I also want to get to this teen being arrested. So this is incredible. 121 cars this kid stole. I'm not even mad. I'm sort of impressed. No, I'm just kidding. This is terrible. And he got out on the same night. So he stole 121 cars and then he went to jail, obviously, and they tied him to all of the 121 incidents. He had all the car keys. And then they released him the same night he was apprehended by police. And then he goes out on another crime spree and starts breaking into more cars. Wow, I couldn't have guessed that. All of this and more. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, where we deal with the truth, not talking points. I'm your host, Cat, and today we're putting a spotlight on something the abortion industry wants to keep you in the dark about. Abortion pills. What are they? How do they work? And how are they hurting women? Let's talk about the facts. Over 54% of abortions in America are now done using chemical abortion pills. That number is climbing fast. Why? Because it's easier, it's cheaper, and it's quieter. But here's what they won't tell you. Abortion pills come with a serious risk. The process is 2 drugs, mifepristone, which actually ends the pregnancy, and misoprostol, which forces the body to expel the baby. Sounds simple, right? It's not. According to the FDA, 4,200 serious adverse events have been reported, including 28 deaths since 2000, the year 2000. And those are just the official numbers. In 2021, there was a peer-reviewed study that found that ER visits after chemical abortions increased by over 500% between 2002 and 2015. And here's the kicker. Many of these cases are coded as miscarriages, and they're coded as miscarriages because women don't, or they can't tell the hospital what actually happened and that they actually took these pills. That means the real damage, probably much worse. So way more than 4,200 adverse events since 2000. Now brace yourself. The Biden administration made it to where these pills were accessible by the mail with no person exam, no ultrasound, and no guarantee that the pregnancy had to be an ectopic pregnancy. So, I mean, you could be taking these in your 6 months, 7 months, 8 months along. And it's not, this could be deadly if you take it when it's not an ectopic pregnancy. Women are being told to take these powerful drugs and there's zero medical supervision. That's not healthcare. It's called negligence. It's medical negligence. And we're seeing heartbreaking stories about all these women who are bleeding alone in dorm rooms, bathrooms, parking lots, or even in their own cars in the parking lot. Clinics like Planned Parenthood calls this empowerment and empowering, but tell me how it's empowering to hand a teenager a handful of pills and say, good luck. The emotional fallout is just as real, by the way. There's a physical risk, but there's an emotional risk as well. Women reported feeling abandoned, traumatized, and even haunted by what they've done, especially when they see the tiny, tiny body of their baby passing and passing that. It's traumatizing, and nobody tells them that they're going to see the tiny baby in the pamphlet. So here's the truth, the plain and simple truth. Abortion pills are not safe. They're not kind, and they're not empowering. They actually hurt women, and they silence their pain by taking these chemical abortion pills, and they protect an industry by keeping the abortion in the dark. And it doesn't do anything to protect the individual at all. I'm Kat, and this has been Conservative Clips, Cat Clips, reminding you that real healthcare, it doesn't kill people, and real healthcare means empowering women and supporting women, not selling them lies in a bottle. Stay alert, stay bold, and always choose light. This has been Conservative Cat Clips.
My
morning. I appreciate you being here. Start your weekday mornings. Conservative Cat Show. It's a brand new, fiery, passionate, and unapologetically conservative Christian take on what's happening with your tax dollars in Illinois. Also, we go through the news of the day, top stories we're going to be broadcasting live every weekday at about 6 a.m. Welcome to the top of the hour, 7 a.m. The show cuts through the noise and we provide sharp commentary and investigative reporting. And there's a little dose of satire as well. So we do some satire exposing the absurdities on the other side of the aisle, the left. So before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this new green weenie tax. Okay, so this green weenie tax in Hawaii specifically. So they are pursuing this whole invisible evil known as climate change. They're pursuing to save the world from this evil thing called climate change. It's invisible. We can't see it. And the state of Hawaii, the way that they're going to combat this evil is by taxing tourists, which makes absolutely zero sense. But maybe one day they'll have enough money to change the direction of the wind and to change the amount of rainfall that happens in that state. So under this new law, your travel accommodations, so your hotels, if you're a tourist, your temporary lodging is going to be taxed, and it's an increase of a whopping total of 11%. So it's a 0.75 increase. Let's take a listen. Here is the governor signing the new legislation into law. Here we go.
After years of political back and forth, the pen finally hit the paper.
I hope that the world is watching, because having something that is a balance between industry and environment is going to be the way to go forward to protect your people.
Senate Bill 1396, now Act 96, creates what's being called a climate impact fee, also known as the green fee. The 0.75% increase to the state's transient accommodation tax hikes the TAT to 11% for tourism-related activities, including hotels and cruise ships. To break that down, for every $400 spent, $3 will go towards natural resource protection. The bill is projected to raise an estimated $100 million a year to address what the state says is about $500 million in critical funding needed to protect Hawaii's natural resources.
Okay, so they signed this according to the Post Millennial under Act 96, also known as Senate Bill 1396, the state's current TAT. This is that tax on accommodations, your temporary accommodations. If you're a tourist there, it's going to increase by 0.75%. So it's a total of 11%. Okay, so the increase is going to take effect in January of 2026. And according to a news release, Governor Green's office, this is how the math kind of breaks down. So if you were staying somewhere for $400 a night, which isn't unheard of in Hawaii, it's going to cost you an extra $3 to stay there. So that's how much this tax is. It's going to cost you an extra $3, and that goes towards climate change, the invisible evil that is climate change. It's the green fee, and it's intended to address the critical need to build resiliency against the impacts of climate change, providing a stable source of funding for environmental stewardship, hazard mitigation, and sustainable tourism. So that's what they're doing with this green fee. They're somehow going to change the direction of the wind, I suppose. I don't know how you do that. Like the whole thing in Hawaii, the Maui wildfires, that was totally preventable, just basic infrastructure. They weren't cleaning out their dead brush because controlled burns, I guess, are bad for the environment and contribute to climate change. So they didn't clean up the brush, which resulted in deaths. It was terrible, the Maui wildfires. But also there was a lot of wind, and it brought down these power lines. But it was the government that was supposed to shut those down. They have the people to shut those power lines down when there's increased winds. They knew that there were going to be increased winds, and they were supposed to shut them down, but they didn't. Then the fighters, they didn't have enough water to put out the wildfire. So all of this was preventable. They don't need more money. They just need to do their damn jobs, right? So they say, oh, we're going to build a resiliency against the impacts of climate change, this green fee. No, you just need to do your damn jobs and do them well. shut off the power lines when there's increased winds, and start doing controlled burns because those prevent forest fires. Common sense. Hawaii cannot, here's what Governor Green said, Hawaii cannot wait for the next disaster to hit before taking action. We must build resiliency now, and the green fee will provide the necessary financing to ensure resources are available for our future. Yeah, so this is expected to generate $100 million a year. That's insanity. And this may or may not be the cost to control the rain. I don't know how much the island gets every single year. Maybe this $100 million can change the direction of the wind, or can control the power of the wind and how strong it is. I don't know if $100 million will do it. Maybe. we'll have to see. But really, shouldn't the state be looking to increase tourism, right, rather than punishing people who keep their economy afloat? Because let's be real, the economy, the only reason why it exists as a state is because of the tourism, okay, and that's what keeps their economy afloat. Why are you punishing the people who are keeping your economy afloat? Everyone knows that this climate tax is a total scam, and there's no evidence that 0.75% of these funds generated through this tax for travel accommodation, temporary travel accommodations, will do anything to control the direction of the wind. You just need to do your damn jobs. With the Maui wildfires, there was a lot of, it almost looked not negligent, but purposeful. And I hate to say that, but that's how bad the government negligence was. They had all the tools and the resources at their disposal. It wasn't that. They had the ability to shut down the power lines. They had the ability to clean up the brush and burn. They chose not to. So, anyway, so it's not like these people are in the business of being factually and logically correct, though. And as long as they can blame disasters on this invisible evil, which is climate change, they're going to keep doing that, and they're going to keep taxing you to fight this invisible evil entity, which is climate change and this invisible crisis, and they're going to keep taxing you to do it. So the DOJ, reason why I brought this up today, Michigan, there's a lawsuit against them. The DOJ has already announced a lawsuit against Hawaii, against this state specifically, because they want Hawaii sue fossil fuel corporations for reasons that don't exist. They're trying to say that they're trying to hold these companies accountable for climate change. And they don't provide any evidence, obviously, in this lawsuit that suggests that these companies are solely to blame for this invisible evil, which is climate change. They provide zero evidence to back this up. And that makes as much sense as these increased taxes. These increased taxes are unjustified in the state of Hawaii. And the lawsuit against these evil fossil fuel corporations, they're unjustified. And yeah, they're casting blame on these tourists, just like they cast blame on the corporations. So tourists, it's your fault, so you have to pay a little bit more in order for us to change the direction of the wind or whatever. And once again, this doesn't exist. The only reason why Hawaii went through this Maui wildfire thing is because of government negligence, and they had all the resources. They chose not to use those resources for God knows what reason. But hey, at least the residents, they could probably get rid of their rain dances, doing rain dances, because maybe they'll have enough money now and enough money in taxes to finally control how much rain the island sees. So I want to shift gears. Let's get to, of course, Sleepy Joe Biden. Sleepy Joe Biden, he admitted that he could not walk. Okay, but he also, in the same breath, said that he could beat the hell out of Jake Tapper for questioning his mental competency. And I want to make this clear. Jake Tapper covered up, just like all the other legacy media, these three-letter media agencies, traditional media, they covered up and they gave Joe Biden a pass for the last 4 years. So this is a clip CNN. They cut away from Joe Biden, who says he's not mentally stable. He admits that. He actually said, yeah, no, I'm not mentally stable. And then he says that he could beat the hell out of Jake Tapper. But CNN cuts away really, really quick, because I think that he was getting really up close and personal with this young reporter, which we've seen multiple times Joe Biden do this. But this reporter said, "There's been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office." And she goes up and she starts questioning him. And he admits, he says, "I can't walk, but I could also beat the hell out of both of them." Jake Tapper, I guess. Take a listen to this. This is wild. Here we go.
Well, the prognosis is good. You know, we're working on everything. It's moving along. So I feel good.
Have you decided on your treatment options?
Yeah, we have. And they're underway. And all the folks are very optimistic.
And so you've started treatment.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share what exactly that entails?
Well, it's all a matter of taking a pill, one particular pill. And for the next 6 weeks and then another one. And the expectation is we're going to be able to beat this. It's not in any organ. It's my bones are strong. I hadn't penetrated, so I'm feeling good.
So I feel like everybody expects. Sorry,
I've done it all because I'm loyal. I do it every damn year at the very beginning. I never forget where I came from. That's why.
I feel like everybody didn't know what to expect of you today, and then you get here and you're speaking powerfully. You look good. You're confident. What do you say to all those people? Don't count you out.
Well, I say lots of luck in the senior year.
What has this been like for your family? Obviously, this is also an emotional time. This is the 10-year anniversary of your son, Bo's passing. You received this diagnosis just 2 weeks before that.
Well, we're all optimistic about the diagnosis. Matter of fact, one of the leading surgeons in the world is working with me. And he had diagnosed with the same exact thing 32 years ago. He's alive and well and doing very well. So we're optimistic. We're optimistic.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent and I can't walk and I could beat the hell out of both of them.
Do you want to reply to any of those reports, and also to the fact that there are some Democrats who are now questioning whether you should have run for re-election in the first place?
Why didn't they run against me then? Because I'd have beaten them.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't have any regrets. Look, there's a lot going on, and I think we're in a really difficult moment, not only in American history, but in world history. I think we're one of those inflection points in history where the decisions we make in the next little bit are going to determine what things look like in the next 20 years. I've been talking about that for a long time. And I'm very proud. I'll put my record as president against any president at all. You notice that the 10 leading presidential historians rated me pretty good up on that list. And the guy I ran against, I rated him the last. So we'll see.
So you had
Watch me.
Watch me. What's it mean to have your family here and be able to look out at him while you're talking?
That feels good. Look, that's my son Bo's son, and Bo started coming here with me about the same age, so it's he wanted to be where his dad had been and what he's doing. He just graduated from high school. He's going off to college in the fall, and I'm really proud of him. And he is the son of his father. So,
do you have anything to say to the press secretary?
Okay, we heard for the first time there from former.
So they cut away, obviously, CNN, they cut away from Joe Biden being a garbled mess, despite Jake Tapper's book calling into question whether Joe Biden was in fact a sleeping potato. He should really be thanking the man, because Joe Biden wouldn't have gotten as far as he did had not Jake Tapper been one of the people covering for him. Okay, so he should really write Joe Biden a thank you note. It's actually unclear who would have won in a fight, Jake Tapper or Joe Biden. Let me know in the comments section. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Be sure to subscribe and share this out with your friends. Brought to you by Patriot Pump Media. Head on over to patriotpumpenergy.com. Go ahead, grab your bottle of pre-workout. And even if you don't work out, I'm telling you, this pre-workout, I drink it just regularly because it's got just the right amount of caffeine, and it's got this black pepper extract. It keeps me going all day long, and it keeps me focused. So Conservative Cat, you get $10 off at checkout. It's patriotpumpenergy.com. $10 off. Use Conservative Cat promo code. Now, like I said, don't know who's going to win in a fight, Jake Tapper, Joe Biden. Let me know in the comments section. Would it be Jake Tapper? I don't know. I think Joe Biden's kind of Tapper's kind of a sissy. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure that it would be a close fight if I had to bet on it, right? So this appears to be Joe Biden's first public appearance since his cancer diagnosis. First, it was completely comical how the network was forced to cut away from the moment where he started to get in this reporter's face, by the way, this young reporter. And that's not unusual for Joe Biden. He always gets in these young women's faces or makes them very uncomfortable. You can see like this reporter's eyes darting around. Like she's like, is anybody seeing this? He got really close to my face there. I thought he was going to kiss me. Secondly, this happened at the same event where Joe Biden once again implied that his son died in Iraq. We know that that's not true. Take a listen to what he had said during the speech.
Every year we come together to remember the brave women and men who gave their all for this nation, or as Lincoln called it, the last full measure of devotion. That's what it was, the last full measure of devotion. They laid down their lives so we could live our lives in peace, and maybe the most important word, with possibilities. And I know I speak for everyone here, and when I say we remember them every single day, not just this day, but every day.
So that was part of his Memorial Day speech. I'm going to fast forward to the part. I think this is where he says Hunter Biden died in the Middle East. He didn't. He died of cancer in the States. But sure, go on. I guess.
Freedom of our nation. It sounds like hyperbole, but it's real. It's literal. So everyone who came here today to grieve with grief in your heart, please know you're not alone. You'll never be alone. And your loved one will never be forgotten. Period. My friends, Memorial Day is about something profound. Our politics have become so divided and so bitter. All the years I've been doing this, I never thought we'd get to this point, but we are. Our troops don't wear a uniform that says I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. It says I'm an American.
Whoa.
I'm an American. That's who I am. I'm serious about this. I'm not joking. And folks,
I didn't think you were joking.
Politics has become, as I said, so divided.
Checks
They wear
notes.
the uniform of the United States of America. The only nation in the world, literally not free, the only nation in the world founded on an idea. An idea.
I think he's missing.
Every nation was founded on.
You guys see that? I think he's missing some teeth on this side. Yeah, in there he talks about, Bo, his son, dying. He died of cancer in the States. He didn't die in the Middle East. It's unclear, of course, why CNN cut that one tape that I shared earlier so quickly. I think it had something to do with the fact that they were instrumental in this cover-up. And had they done more interviewing of Joe Biden and kept the camera on him, it would have admitted like some sort of guilt in one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. CNN was complicit in covering this up, and they can't put the camera on him for too long because we know, the American people know, that it didn't get this bad overnight. He has always been this way since 2020 when he ran from his basement. Okay, it's quite sad that Joe Biden won't admit that he's a sleeping potato. It's pathetic. And he refuses to admit that he's mentally incompetent. And I don't expect him to come out and say, that's got to be pretty hard to say, yeah, I'm mentally incompetent or physically incompetent. He did accidentally admit that he couldn't walk and that he wanted to fight Jake Tapper in the same sentence. But one of the dumbest things that the left did was try to convince us that this guy was sharp as a tack. That was the dumbest thing. And they probably cut the camera away, CNN, very quickly. They were like, okay, let's stop showing how bad Joe Biden is because it's going to reflect on us and how guilty we are. We were the ones who were covering this up. Jake Tapper's the one who covered this up despite his little book, The Original Sin, that was released. He was instrumental in that cover up. All right, I want to talk about the left and their completely foolish idea here that teenagers should not be held accountable for crimes solely because of their age. which is so dumb. Okay. That's totally foolish. And it has led to one of the biggest crime epidemics among our youth in many parts of the country, Bloomington, Chicago, Decatur, I mean, everywhere. And this story, I'm pulling this one from Maryland. This is a Maryland teen. He decided, and this is kind of impressive. Like, am I mad? Yes, but I am sort of impressed. He stole 100 or had 121 car break-ins. Okay. And he stole about 20 keys to these cars. And after he broke into 121 cars, he got arrested, but then was released that same night. Now, this is in Maryland. And he was released that same night, but get this, he continues his crime spree after he was released. Wow, I guess I could have guessed that one, right? I think you could have guessed it too. Take a listen.
Tied to more than 100 car break-ins across Maryland, was just released hours after his arrest, only to be accused of yet another offense. Today, the Laurel Police Department held a press conference providing an update after a large-scale car break-in spree earlier this month. Now, according to police, 47 break-ins were reported in Laurel, 38 in Prince George's County, and 17 in Howard County.
DJS advised our detectives to release him back into the home then. They noted that he did not have a prior record, although I would offer well over 100 cases in one night gives you a pretty good record to go on. So yes, 5 hours after we were at his house, he was released back into the community, back into the environment that allowed him to be out roaming the streets in all of these counties late at night and in the early morning, doing these crimes to begin with.
Okay, so there you have it. This Maryland teen got busted, according to the New York Post, breaking into 121 cars in a single night. And then he was ordered to be released within hours of him being apprehended. This irate local police, they said that more than a dozen cars were stolen the next day or looted the next day. So he broke into cars. And these are not victimless crimes. I want to be clear about that. I've had my car broken into before, and this was back when I was smoking cigarettes. They stole my cigarettes, and I was very upset, and money out of my wallet and everything. So and these are not victimless crimes. I want to be clear about that. And this is there's a insane amount of predictability here. I could have guessed that this kid was going to be back out onto the streets. Of course, you didn't hold him accountable. What did you think was going to happen? The authority, you had to have known that he was just going to go out and do it again because you just held him for a couple of hours. Pathetic. Just pathetic. The suspect was a 16-year-old boy, and he was arrested by the Laurel Police Department after all those break-ins, the 121 in a single day. And then the crimes, they span. So this was he put some effort into this. He put some time into this because the crime spanned across 2 counties. So that's huge. Prince George County and then Howard County. Surveillance footage shows that he was in both areas, and they were capturing surveillance footage of 3 teens. There was actually 3 teens going around, and they were stealing cars, smashing in the windows, all of that. But this kid specifically is on the hook for 121 of these events. So the police, obviously, they went and they investigated the suspect's home, teenage suspect. And he had 20 car keys. He had credit cards. He had stolen items. And he was linked to all 121 events throughout that region across 2 counties. This is an effort. Okay. So this wasn't just like a kid breaking into a car and trying to steal some cigarettes and he did it one time. This was calculated. This was cunning. And this was not victimless. I want to be clear. So many people are struggling to make ends meet, and then you take away their credit card, you take away, or they have to pay for the fixed window. There are consequences to lost keys. There's consequences to credit cards, canceling those. And this really disadvantages, it hurts innocent Americans. Yet the authorities treated this kid like he was the victim and let him out because of his age. It's madness. And the boy was taken into custody. And the Maryland state's attorney had requested that the boy remain at the juvenile detention center due to the scale of his alleged crime. So get this, it wasn't the SA, it wasn't the state's attorney that let him go or slapped him on the wrist. get this, the police, okay, the local police were really upset by that. And you heard that officer. But the police, the Laurel police, they said because of the boy's lack of criminal record, or the police were rebuffed because of the lack of previous record. So the local police there had said 121 times that is enough of a record. So the boy was meant to stay at the juvenile detention center, but I guess I don't know if it was the SA. I don't think it was the SA's fault. I think it was the Laurel police and then the county police. They were rebuffed by this because he did these crimes in their counties and they were pretty upset, but they said it was a lower level crime. And I don't know about you, but what makes it an upper level crime or a higher level crime? I would say the fact that he did it 121 times, that's enough of a record to make sure the boy doesn't get released back in public. That he serves a good long, I would say, a year for every year. So 16 years, I would say 16 years or 20 years, something like that. This is, a pretty intense crime. This was calculated cunning. This took a lot of effort on his behalf. And I don't know what the distinguishing things are between a lower level crime and an upper level crime, but I say it's safe to assume if you commit a lower level crime 120 times, you should probably be at least elevated to a middle level or a higher offense, right? And serve some sort of jail time. So it's unfortunate. We could probably only expect more of the same from blue states, blue cities. And this is a pathetic pursuit, by the way, of the left. They want to make criminals justified, and they want to say that criminals are justified, and they're emboldening these teenagers to commit endless crimes just simply because they're young. And there are victims being created every single second in these communities. And I know that there's a lot of issues because I lived in Normal, in my community. I had my car broken into, and there was a string of break-ins. This was in 2021. It was right after the pandemic. I'm sure there's still a lot of break-ins that happen in Bloomington Normal, in Illinois. And the Safety Act, you get a slap on the wrist and then, go on out. Do it again. Unclear how many more victims have to suffer until the state fulfills its basic duties. These are basic duties. Keep the crime off of the street. Maryland has proven that they're incapable of this and of their basic responsibilities to the greater public, and that's a slap in the face to all of these law-abiding Americans. And this is something that it will never be morally justified. I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about Jasmine Crockett because she makes this really bizarre claim about how she's being targeted, and her fellow media her partner in crime here, Jim Acosta, they're trying to equate Jasmine Crockett to Donald Trump, and they're trying to say that Donald Trump was a target and he was very influential for the Republican Party, and that Jasmine Crockett is a target and she's just as important to the Democrat Party as Trump is to the Republican Party. And that's just bogus. We know that. And nobody's targeting Jasmine Crockett. Republicans aren't. She's actually a good thing for the Republican Party. So we're going to get to that. Plus, Tom Homan dropping a blunt warning for this criminal alien who was recently deported. He made a violent threat against President Donald Trump. He wanted to kill Donald Trump. He illegally entered the country 9 different times. And Tom Homan, he dropped this blunt warning. Don't, right? Essentially, don't. You won't win if you try to come to this country again. I also want to get to Penn Medicine. They are ending gender surgeries for minors. Some of them, I guess. Don't give them too much credit, Penn Medicine, because they're ending certain gender surgeries, not all of them. And they're still giving out puberty blockers and hormone therapy to minors. So we're going to get to all of it. Be sure to follow me, subscribe to the channel, and visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Grab your bottle, use promo code ConservativeCap. We'll be right back. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, where the claws come out and the truth lands hard. I'm your host, Kat. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something that ought to make every Illinois taxpayer's blood boil. You're funding the abortion industry, and the abortion industry is very, very funded by the state of Illinois. So we're going to be zooming in on Illinois. What used to be the land of Lincoln is now the Midwest's abortion sanctuary. Under Governor J.B. Pritzker, Illinois has gone full throttle into becoming what he proudly calls the beacon for reproductive rights. Translation, come one, come all. Have your abortions here, and the taxpayers are going to pick up the tab. In 2019, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed the so-called Reproductive Health Act, making abortion, quote, a fundamental right in Illinois. But that wasn't all. He also repealed the Parental Notification Act for minors getting abortions. So that means little Susie, if she's 12 years old, she doesn't need her parents' permission to go get an abortion. Your 13-year-old daughter can get an abortion in Illinois, even without you knowing. And while Illinois families are struggling with inflation, property taxes, and rising crime, guess where your tax dollars are going? The last few years, just tens of millions of dollars of Illinois taxpayer dollars have gone to Planned Parenthood in just a few years, tens of millions of dollars. And they're not going to just fund the procedure itself. They're paying for out-of-state women to come here and abort their babies. It includes transportation, lodging costs, and logistical support, whatever the hell that means. I'm probably paying for some woman to get a McDonald's sandwich while she's here in the state. And literally, we're running a state-sponsored abortion tourism business. That's what we're doing here in the state. And let's not forget Planned Parenthood CEO salaries. Over $670,000 for Alexis McGill Johnson. Regional directors, they make about like six figures too. So your paycheck is shrinking, their paycheck is growing, and your roads have potholes, but Planned Parenthood thriving. Pritzker loves to pose as a champion for women, but let's be honest, this isn't even about ideology. It's about power and money. He's not protecting women. He's protecting Planned Parenthood's bottom line and all of these people raking in that CEO cash. And Illinois is now the abortion capital of the Midwest because he made it that way. Governor J.B. Pritzker. Illinois used to be about opportunity and family values. Now it's the go-to state for late-term abortion. Over 46,000 abortions in Illinois were done in 2022 or 2023 alone. 46,000 in Illinois alone, and many of you paid for that. And under Governor J.B. Pritzker, that number is just going to keep going up and up and up every single year. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. I'm Kat, reminding you that taxpayer-funded abortion is not compassionate. It's corruption. And all of these people are making tons of money. And it's time we demand real leadership. It's time we step up and demand that they stop funding this madness. It's time we stand for life here in the state of Illinois. What do you think? Good morning. I'm Conservative Cat. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Earlier in the show, I was telling you about a sliver of good news. There was one, maybe two slivers of good news that came out of the weekend when legislative session ended. There was a deadline. I think it was like midnight Saturday, and it was a truly absurd measure. It was that $1.50 delivery fee. I don't think that made it through, and it would have charged you $1.50 every delivery that came to your door, Amazon packages, pizza, whatever it is. And that would have really affected these rural communities. They would have been the hardest hit. It was a regressive tax. Now that didn't make it through. Now another thing did not make it through. And joining me to break it all down, you know him, you love him, State Representative Bill Hauter. I'm honored that you've joined me on the show. That
Good
Illinois
morning.
bill did pass, but it only passed the House, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. So it passed the House. It just barely passed the House. A lot of debate. We got a lot of witness slips and opposition. There was opposition groups, disability groups, religious groups. You know, I think they got a lot of pressure. In the House, we had 5 Democrats that voted no. They actually pushed their no button. We didn't know that they worked. But we were one the electrician to check those no buttons over there on the Democrat side. But at any rate, we actually had 5 of them. Some of the Black Caucus recognized that, you know what, there's everywhere this has been tried, physician-assisted suicide, there grows a two-tier system of care. Those who have money and have means, have good insurance, they get the latest cancer treatments. And this is, I'm talking about, and where it's been tried, Canada, Oregon, they have a two-tier system that develops. And I think some people in the Black Caucus, some of the reps in the Black Caucus have noticed that. And so when it did barely pass the House and went over to the Senate, they first of all, they ran out of time. I mean, it was, the management of this was crazy. Well, it was to our advantage, but it was absolutely incompetent management of a lot of the bills. They just ran out of time debating the budget. Of course, they gave us a budget at the last minute. To make a long story short, I think they never had the votes in the Senate, and so they were going to try to bring it up, and they ran out of time, and they knew they couldn't pass it with the amount of votes that they had as well.
Yeah, well, and I know that they had talked about this maybe the 103rd General Assembly. It was just kind of whispered, and there was some press conferences and things surrounding this. So many proponents of assisted suicide frame the issue as compassionate dignity, and I wanted to have you on because you're a physician. You're at ER, so tell our listeners a little bit about your background.
Well, I am a physician. I graduated in 1997 from the University of Illinois Medical School, and I've been practicing both anesthesiology, where I mostly practice at anesthesiology. I practice pediatric and adult cardiac anesthesia, and I have since for 20 some years now. But I did my first residency and board certification in emergency medicine. And so I have a really unique practice, and I continue to practice in emergency departments, but just a little bit, just to keep my foot in the door in emergency medicine, so to speak. But I mostly practice anesthesiology, which has a lot to do with, the treatment of pain. And there's a chronic pain component to anesthesiology. I don't practice in that field in particular. Like I said, I practice in mostly operative OR anesthesia. But, I'm active in the Illinois State Medical Society, and we've debated this topic many times at our annual meeting with resolutions, on ethics in medicine. And we just a couple months ago, we had our annual meeting, and we again debated the bills on physician-assisted suicide, and we call it physician-assisted suicide. I know a lot of the proponents of these bills, they call it medical aid in dying. And we just really object to that term, because we in medicine say we have medical aid in dying. And to your question, that's where we want to focus our compassion for these terrible stories and just, the human suffering that takes place in some, terminal illnesses at the very end of life. People need, they need compassionate care. They need, how are you going to withdraw care? There comes a time, we understand this natural part of life is death and the dying process. And so medicine has really addressed it through palliative care and through hospice care and better and better pain treatments and understanding the death process, the dying process, and when it's time to withdraw care. And so that's where we want to focus our energies and research and resources to our growing fields of palliative care and hospice care. And we've learned a lot. And I think we've made huge strides when you're talking about the 80s, the 90s, and where this is just starting out to where we are today, and how we're taking care of people today and trying to relieve. Now, obviously there's stories out there, and that's what happened on the House floor. There's a lot of stories of people that didn't get the care that they needed. Well, that's not a reason to have them commit suicide. It's a reason to get better at the compassionate care of hospice care.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'd be curious, how are we going to protect, and you've already kind of seen this in places like Canada, how are we going to protect these vulnerable populations like the elderly, the disabled, the mentally ill, especially when we have things like Medicaid here in Illinois? We have a Medicaid government-sponsored insurance, and that's costly. You guys just passed a $55 billion budget. not you, but
Yeah.
the Democrats, the state legislature, right? They passed this $55 billion budget. It's expensive to run those programs. And and I hate to say this, but we've already seen it happen in Canada where they're killing people so that way it's cheaper for them and they don't have to dole out so many tax dollars to this program. And I wonder how we would protect vulnerable people like the mentally ill, the disabled, the elderly from killing themselves and committing suicide under this guise of choice, but really they're coerced to do it because, hey, it's a money making endeavor. And other countries do this where the disabled people, there's no disabled people because they're all on government health care and it's costly to keep those people alive and functioning. And they recognize that and they just kill them so that way it's not expensive. I don't know if Illinois would do that if we were to get something like this passed, but is there a concern there with this coercion?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a huge concern, and you said it really well. Everywhere it's been tried, it expands and advances. It's almost like it's a ruse. It's a ruse to get this in, and that I think was why so many disability groups see this for what it is, and so many people that represent the vulnerable, the poor, see exactly this sliding, slippery slope argument. I call it a slippery cliff. But it is the expansion of it, and it's quickly becomes a duty to die. It quickly becomes you are a burden on people, and it's not even it's coercion, but it's very subtle coercion because coercion from the person that feels like there's such a burden. I mean, people with disabilities or those are terminally ill, they feel a great sense of what some of the problem is that they're my dog is whimpering in the background, of course. I'm sorry about that, but
he doesn't like the physician assisted suicide bill either. He
yeah,
agrees.
right, crying about it.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean, they're treating it like we're animals. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what it feels like. Hey, we're gonna put you down.
Yep,
You know what I
yep,
mean?
and the coercion comes with the great sense of I'm such a burden on people. I'm such a burden on those who love me, and they quickly have a duty to die, and then you're offered. You see in the Netherlands and other places, Canada, where it's just astonishing how quickly it advances to diabetes, and if you have depression. I could go on and on about this, but so many people with terminal illnesses, they have comorbidities like depression, feeling of hopelessness, and so then that is introduced into it. That's such a confounding variable. As like this person really in their right mind? And so often you don't know if they're even thinking straight. They think they're worthless. They think they're a burden, and they have this overall sense of hopelessness and depression. And in that setting, you're going to offer them a chance to kill themselves. It just is a terrible ethical, nightmare when you're talking about this.
Well, good thing it didn't get passed. And do you think that it's going to come back next legislative session or
Yeah,
fall veto?
will. The sponsor of it, which is she's the majority leader of the Illinois House, Robin Gable. She said, when she was introducing this bill that night of the vote, she said this has been basically a decade-long battle for me, and so definitely not going to give up. And they have a great sense that this is a great thing. Oftentimes, there's so many of their bills that are just bad bills. They think it's the best thing ever. So when they have that kind of passion and commitment, we're definitely going to see it. So we're going to have to continue to fight.
Yeah, and they cheered when it passed the House, which
Yeah.
was so disgusting. I thought that was a rumor. It was real, right?
They actually did, and I see a lot of times when a big bill with a lot of debate passes, they actually cheer on the other side when it does pass. So I don't think they were cheering, suicide. I think they were cheering for the majority leader, Gable, and her commitment to trying to pass this bill. And as a physician, I would just want to say, I understand both sides, and I understand, we hear so many stories of the terminally ill, people who suffer terrible last days of their life. I want to be really sensitive to that. And during committee hearing on this bill, we heard story after story of this, and totally understand how important this is to some people, even some people in medicine who I greatly respect, mentors of mine, colleagues of mine. They have a different mind on this. So this is one of these things where, we have to be really careful, in what we say about this, because there are people I highly respect on the other side of this issue, especially working in medicine.
Really quick before you go, I wanted to ask you one more quick question about the WHO and the FDA. So, this was a bill, I don't even know the number or anything, but they
crazy.
Yeah, I guess they're surrendering our state medical standards to the World Health Organization, which is, by the way, an unelected foreign body.
Yeah.
The FDA is appointed, of course, an American.
Yep.
So,
and it's the gold standard. It's the gold standard for medication review on the quality, safety, and efficacy of all of our drugs in the United States. And it's made up of doctors and scientists. It's the commissioner is appointed by the president, and it's under the Department of Human Services. But this is why it happened, because, and I said it on the House floor, this is a virtue signaling bill. This is a orange man bad bill, because we hate Trump and we hate Robert Kennedy. So now we hate the FDA because they're going to take away our abortion pill. Not that they are, but if they try it at all, then we're going to go to the WHO, which does not have a. Well, first of all, the United States doesn't even participate anymore in the WHO, and so we're totally independent. So we don't have any participation in it, and we're going to have them review our drugs. If the FDA says they're unsafe, or there's a quality issue with it, and it says we can't sell it in the United States anymore, Illinois, the only state, is going to go to the WHO, controlled by China, and use their approval process, which they don't have any safety approval process. It's totally unworkable. It's probably illegal. I don't know how a provider would dispense a drug, prescribe and dispense, or a pharmacy would dispense it when it's not FDA approved, and the legal implications alone is crazy. And Illinois did this only to virtue signal, so they could say, "Orange man bad, we love abortion."
Yeah, well, and the drugs I shared on a Conservative Cat clips, you guys can check those out during the show, 6 to 8. It's Conservative Cat. We have State Representative Bill Hauter here. I'm so honored that you came onto the show, and you've been answering a lot of my questions, but this one is shocking, and this got passed. So, there were slivers of good news. That $1.50 delivery fee, not going to be a thing, right? And then
didn't get before the House. They passed it in the Senate. They took bad votes. It's the same thing with this physician-assisted suicide. They made their members take bad votes. In some districts that's going to hurt them on especially this 150 service tax. It's going to hurt a lot of the downstate Dems, which there's hardly any left anyway. But if they voted on this on the Senate side, and then they let it die in the House, so they really they shafted their members to make them now have to talk about and defend their vote on a bill that didn't pass and didn't even go before the House. So a terrible management at the end, also because they're a lot of times incompetent, and obviously we see the state is in, and we understand the incompetence of the party. Well, it spreads to also how they manage bills too.
Yeah. Well, and they screwed over their members, just like he had said. Real quick with the WHO FDA thing.
Yeah.
If we go off the WHO standards, That's going off of, and like you said, it could be unlawful. I'd imagine that there's going to be suits against this, but
Oh, yeah.
how does that kind of look as far as Medicaid? So we've got Medicaid in the state. Our tax dollars are going to be going to, mifepristone, misoprostol, these abortion pills.
Yeah.
Well, they already do that. 13-year-olds can get them in the mail at this point.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but we're going to be taxpayers are going to be funding drugs that are not approved by the FDA.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm anti that because it's like our taxpayer dollars are going towards drugs that aren't even like approved.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these. I'm getting to understand that these bills are just virtue signaling bills. They'll never be actually utilized because, like I said, it's probably not legal. It would be huge liability risk. They did it for all drugs because I think they had to, but they really just wanted to do it for mifepristone, the abortion pill. What it is just that they can go to their constituencies and say, we fought once again for reproductive rights and blah, blah, blah. And we can say that we will never let them take the abortion pill from you. And we protected you so much that if this, terrible Trump attempts to take this drug from you, then we're going to go to other mechanisms of a drug approval, which is total nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't really, in some ways, I don't really get that incensed about this bill passing because we all know what it's all about. It's total political games that we can say, once again, they have to have every session, they have to have one bill where they can say, we fought for reproductive rights. Last session, they were going to reinterpret emergency room procedures for, they called, I don't want to get into it too much, but they called like miscarriages, abortions, and they were protecting, those in the emergency department through EMTALA, which is a federal recognition of how you treat people in the emergency department. That was last session. It was total nonsense. Illinois wasn't going to be alone in reinterpreting EMTALA. We were going to go by what the Supreme Court says. But they could say, just like with this FDA bill, look at us protecting abortion rights.
Yeah, doctors, they're not going to write scripts for drugs that aren't approved by the FDA. In practice,
in practice, this will never be utilized.
Well, Bill Hauter, thank you so much for joining the Conservative Cat Show and spending so much time answering all my questions. We'll talk again soon. And folks, be sure to look up Bill Hauter on Facebook. I'm telling you, I look at his page religiously, sharing out great information for taxpayers. So be sure to follow Bill Hauter, State Representative Bill Hauter on Facebook. Really, he's got good stuff. So I kept up with that assisted physician suicide bill on your Facebook page. And I was waiting. I was like,
that was a really important bill to me. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. I've got to take a quick break, but you are listening to Conservative Cat on Patriot Pump Media. Be sure to go to patriotpumpenergy.com. Grab your bottle of pre-workout. The promo code is Conservative Cat with a C. And you can get $10 off your pre-workout bottle today. It's all clean supplements, no food dyes, no red 40, anything like that. We add a little bit of peppermint extract in there, so that way you can stay focused all day long. We'll be right back.
Sometimes God stops you cold, not with a whisper, with a punch to the soul. Saul wasn't looking for Jesus. He was hunting Christians. He had power, position, and a mission. Then God knocked him to the dirt, a light from heaven, a voice that knew his name. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? That moment wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was a spiritual ambush. God still works like that. He steps into your mess, interrupts your pride, confronts the man you've become when you're wandered too far. Maybe you're building your own kingdom. Maybe your fists are up, fighting battles God never called you to, or maybe you're just running hard in the wrong direction. But then comes the voice, clear, heavy, holy. Why are you persecuting me? Jesus doesn't want your behavior fixed. He wants your heart surrendered. Saul didn't get a lecture. He got a mission. Get up, go to the city. You'll be told what to do. That's the way of real manhood in the kingdom. Surrender first, then orders. You don't need every answer right now. You need to obey the voice. Follow the light. Rise up off the dirt and walk the road God lays out for you. Some roads break you to rebuild you, and that's exactly what Jesus wants. You want to train like a warrior? You need fuel like one. Patriot Pump is clean, powerful pre-workout that won't let you quit halfway. Just like the mission God gives you, it's not about the hype. It's about the grit. Fuel up, lock in, get after it.
Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Gad. I'm fiery, I'm passionate, and we're doing investigative reporting. We've uncovered a lot of where your Illinois tax dollars are going in this $55 billion budget. We had State Representative Bill Hauter on. I'm going to get to one more story today, folks. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share this out with your friends, tell your friends about Patriot Pump Media, tell your friends about patriotpumpenergy.com, and buy your bottle of pre-workout today, promo code Conservative Cat. All right. They spent the last several years trying to lock up President Donald Trump, trying to kill President Donald Trump. I truly do believe that kid was totally involved with BlackRock. But anyway, they tried to lock him up for issues that weren't real. Okay, President Donald Trump. So he had a target on his back. There have been several assassination attempts. And then, of course, they tried to jail him and convict him. And they did convict him, 30 something convictions, which were nothing, which was all nothing. It was paperwork errors, which have traditionally been tried as misdemeanors, but they slapped him with felony convictions anyway. It's incredibly disingenuous for Jasmine Crockett to say that she's got a target on her back. Okay, she was part of the party, the Democrat Party, who did exactly that and put a target on Donald Trump's back. Now she's trying to say that she's got a target on her back. Former CNN host Jim Acosta, he had Jasmine Crockett on his show, and he tells Jasmine Crockett that he thinks that President Trump might arrest her. No. That's what your party, Jim Acosta and Jasmine Crockett, tried to do to Donald Trump. Crockett appeared to agree and said that she has a big target on her back. Let's take a listen to this.
Because, I mean, I have been going off on this on my show. To me, it's not America when ICE agents can show up in masks, sweep people up off the street, send them out of the country without due process, put them in these facilities, and we don't even know what's happening inside these facilities. So, of course, it makes sense that members of Congress would want to go visit one of these ICE facilities and say, okay, what's going on here? We're members of Congress. We represent the people. We want to know what's going on here. And then there's this scuffle where they're giving these members of Congress a hard time. And I'm worried about folks like yourself, Congresswoman, because I have to assume that, you know, of course they would like to arrest you and some of the others who are more outspoken in the House. That's just me thinking that.
No, you're absolutely right. It's interesting because my deputy chief, who's quite young, still has his grandmother, who he calls this particular one Nene. And so I was having to go to El Paso. After I got done in DC, I had to go to El Paso to testify in federal court as relates to the redistricting that was done in 2020 in the state of Texas. Yeah. And his grandmother did not know why we were going to El Paso, but she thought we were going to a detention facility. That I don't know about Jasmine going, because you know they want to lock her up and they probably gonna grab her and throw her in too. And so, you know, it is sad that people are fearful and that they are looking at people like me and really scared because they know there is a target on my back when you have the president of the United States who consistently drops my name and gets.
Yeah, what's that all about?
What? No. Wait a second. I've never heard. Okay, maybe he said her name once. I doubt it. I've really never even heard Donald Trump mention her name, and the fact that she thinks that people are obsessed with her proves how arrogant she and the left is. But why would Donald Trump lock up Jasmine Crockpot? Okay, she is one of the best gifts to the Republican Party. Okay, the Republican Party. If she's going to be the Democratic nominee, hell yeah, that's the best gift the Republican Party has received in years. Almost as perfect as Kamala Harris being the Democrat nominee. This is a perfect gift. Okay, first of all, don't think that Donald Trump even mentions her name. Second of all, why does she really think that she's important? I mean, because truly she's not. What has she done that's beneficial? Really, can you name one thing that she's done that's beneficial for her constituents? And um, she tries to equate herself almost, I think, here to Donald Trump. She's trying to say that there's a target on her back and she's important. And there's been a target on her back because she's so incredibly important to the Democrat Party. Donald Trump was so incredibly important to the Republican Party. That's why there was an actual target on his back. Hence the multiple felony convictions, the constantly trying to jail him, killing him, almost killing him, shooting him in the air, and then him getting back up and saying, fight, fight, fight. No, no one is fearful of her. This is just so pathetic. Nobody's obsessed with her. Okay, so I don't even think Donald Trump really knows that she exists, to be honest. Maybe he said her name maybe once. But why would he lock her up? She's the biggest gift to the Republican Party. And can anyone name one beneficial thing that she's done for America or her constituency? I don't think so. Jim Acosta, total clown, by the way. He pretends like ICE agents are going down and knocking down doors of random people and shipping them off to foreign countries. No, we're going after criminal aliens, by the way, right now. And Tom Homan, he's zeroed in on criminal aliens. So on top of the crime of illegally entering the country through an illegal port of entry, you also had to commit crimes on top of that, like murder, rape, pedophilia, all of that. He blatantly is lying through his teeth there, Jim Acosta. And maybe, just maybe, one day, Jim Acosta is going to tell the damn truth. And maybe, just one day, Jasmine Crockpot will fight for you instead of foreign nationals. But don't hold your breath, and I'm not waiting for them to do this. Now, I do want to share this. Jasmine Crockett does need to be jailed, and here's why. She says, oh, they're going to try to jail me. They're going to try to arrest me, political theater or whatever, political persecution because I'm so important to the Democrat Party. Not happening, by the way. They did that to Donald Trump, but she actually should be jailed. And it's not for the reason you think. It's because she attacked a reporter. Take a watch. Here we go.
As you can see,
Congresswoman, will you condone violence at the test? Would you like to clarify?
Right there, she assaulted a reporter and has yet to be arrested. The reporter's name is Charles. He filed a police report with the DC, with the police in DC, and he was attacked by Jasmine Crockett. Had Charles attacked Jasmine in the same way that she attacked him, he would be in jail. This is evidence that there is a two-tier justice system. Yes, Jasmine Crockett should be in jail. It's because she assaulted a reporter, and she should be arrested for assault. It's not because she's the leader of the Democrat Party and she's going to be arrested or the target of political persecution. No. Your party did that to President Donald Trump. All right. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you so much. We're going to be back at it. The Conservative Cat Show, a fiery, passionate show that gears you up with your news of the day. We provide sharp commentary, investigative insight, and I do a little bit of satire. And the satire is aimed at exposing the absurdities of the other side of the aisle, the left. This is an unapologetically Christian conservative take on what's happening with your tax dollars, what's happening in the news. Weekday mornings, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Be sure to subscribe and follow me on Rumble. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be blessed. We'll be back at it tomorrow.